Okay. And Reba, can I turn over to you now, letting people in?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
New people joining, and we'll let them know we are recording.
Okay. So I would just like to invite you as you come in to write your name and what brought you here. What brought you here today to this open house? And some of you are sitting in Europe, and some of you are sitting in the United States. People in the United States tend to say who the land they are sitting on was, who did it belong to? Who were the stewards of the land before it was settled by the people from Europe? Okay, that is not a European habit. And the Americans, particularly the West Coast Americans, tend to put what their pronouns are. I'm saying that because sometimes for Europeans, they don't quite understand what the pronouns, why people have their pronouns there. Okay. So what I'd like to talk to you about today is my signature program, which is transforming white racism. And the question each time is, why is it transforming white racism, and why is it not just transforming racism? And is it only white people that are racist? So I'm going to just say a few words about the history of racism, and then you will understand why it's transformed white racism. So the racism isn't something that's always existed, and the white race is not something that has always existed. And it dates back 500 years ago, when there was a Catholic Pope who did something called the Edict of Discovery and told all of the Christian European monarchs that all of the lands that they discovered that were not Christian, they could take them for themselves. They could take the land, the fruit of the land, the people living on the land, and the fruit of the labor of the people living on that land. In other words, the highest moral authority gave authorization to steal the land, to commit genocide, to rape, plunder, and bring it all back to make Christian kings rich. And that origin, which goes back 500 years and then changed a little bit from Christian to, oh, if you're Christian, and then we are going to make you, if you're not Christian, then we're going to make you Christian, then we wouldn't be able to enslave you and steal. And so then it changed that it was no longer Christianity. And before the beginning of the 1500s, Prince Henry the Navigator of Portugal said we need to have another reasoning, and that reasoning started to be race, and it started to be color of skin, because you can Christianize someone much easier than you can change the color of their skin. So when we talk about white racism, we're talking about this hierarchy of races that was put into place, where you have a white race, you have an Asian race, you have a indigenous Native American race, and then you had a Black race. And it's interesting, over time, the races changed and who was white. But what's also interesting is that by the 1600s, the qualities of the Asians, of the whites, of the Blacks were set. And they haven't changed a lot in terms of qualities since the 1600s. So all of us sitting here, whether we be Black, white, Native American, we have integrated this hierarchy of white races. So that white racism, that white hierarchy of races, is something that we all have. And this journey that I propose to people is really, how can we start to open our eyes and our ears and our mind and our hearts to change it? And what we're changing to is something that has never existed for 500 years. So we have to create a racially equal world. So after that small introduction of why it's called transforming white racism, any questions or comments? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is, and it's very much in the news today, there's this big question, which, are you a racist? I am not a racist. Yes, you are. No, you're not. That is a completely useless, fruitless, hurting conversation to have. We are all racist, me included. We're all racist. Relax. What is interesting is racism is a continuum. It's a ladder. So right now, I'm going to show you the ladder of racism. I'm going to ask you to position yourself. And I'm doing this now because my work, the transformational journey that I invite you to, is identify where am I on the ladder? And how am I going to move up the ladder? And how do I accept that I'm always going to slide back down? And when I slide back down, how do I recognize it and come back up? And maybe on the this racist continuum or this racist ladder, I'm much further along in my professional life than in my private life. Or maybe I'm much further along in my private life than my professional life. And that's a reality. So, one of the basic things I said is transformation is that not only do I stop putting myself in a binary position, but I also hold that in the world. Am I racist? Am I not racist? This binary position is harmful to all of us, and it doesn't help us go forward. So I'm going to, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
So on the screen, you have something that is actually made by the Dismantling Racism Organization. This is their work, it's not mine. And it was written by white people. Okay. And it's that we need to accept our identity as white people within a white group. And this requires two tasks: the abandonment of individual racism and the recognition of an opposition to institutional and cultural racism. And that's something else which is very important. When you can say, oh, I'm not racist because I have Black friends or because I have a Black spouse. No, you're still racist. And we're talking about internalized or individual racism that affects me. But we have something which is institutional and cultural and systemic. And that racism, getting rid of it is going to require a lot of healing work. And it's going to require collective action over time to change. So once again, this one binary sentence, am I racist or not racist, has nothing to do with the reality of healing racism, but does have to do with creating a double bind so we cannot go forward. So when I work with people, and later I'll ask a couple of people who have worked with me, I get them to say, and I'm going to ask you to say now, if you look at this ladder from I'm normal to community of love and resistance, I want you to just look at it and write down, where do you think you are now? And then write down, where would you like to be in 2 years' time? And And Reba, we're going to put them in groups of, I think, 3. I'm going to put you in groups of 3, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes. No, 6 minutes. 6 minutes to share in groups of 3. What makes me think I'm in this space? And what makes me think what it is about this space that I'd like to have that I don't have now, that I'd like to be that I am not now. So you're gonna have 6 minutes, including saying hello and this is my name. So,
I just need 1 more minute.
okay. So this is the ladder. Oh, oops, we lost the ladder. How did I do that? Now if I put this here. I don't know. You should be able to download from the chat the ladder. No. Okay.
Do people feel like they have the ladder well enough to go into the breakout groups? I'm ready. So I'm nodding, thumbs up. Okay, I think they can
Okay.
help each
Okay.
other. Carl, I have you in a group alone. You can just go back to the main room unless you want to be in a group. So I'm going to hang back in the main room. If anybody needs something, holler. Otherwise,
Okay.
I'm open. Please join a breakout room if you see the link. Bottom right, probably. I didn't give it a time. How long do you want?
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
Okay. And we can put the recording on pause.
Okay.
How did you find the discussion?
Short and rich.
Yeah, I found it great. It's just nice to be with people who are using their energy to move towards having a look at this. It's nice.
Necessary.
And you should have a copy of the ladder in the chat for people who wanted to have it.
Candace, did you want to say something?
It's too short. It
Oh.
takes a minute or two for a group to coalesce and then to start talking. And then it was like, wait, no, don't stop yet.
Okay. So one of the things that you will do on the journey is you'll have more time to talk about where you're at and where you want to go. And what does it look like and how would you behave and what would you feel like and what would you say? And you'll also have an opportunity to role play being different positions. And so, for example, when someone's at the bottom of the ladder, how do you talk to them in a way that you listen to them and they feel listened to? And then you're neither attacking them, neither saying it's okay to be this kind of exclusive racist person, this kind of, because I'm another kind. And maybe I could ask Jenny or Andrea or Gloria to say something about what it's been like to have had those conversations over a 6-month period.
I can start. For me, it's been it's a completely eye-opener, but the thing is having those difficult conversations all together, building community through the months, feeling the support of the others. It's what, and really it's what came out of it, because we are, with Jenny and Andrea, we are working on a project together, and it feels so good to have come out of and being able to do this together as a healing process for us, for others. So it's the power of community, because this, what I've realized, it's we have a wound that as a society we need to heal. But before this workshop, I didn't know there was a wound. And now I realize there is no way I can heal something that I don't acknowledge first. So yeah, for me, it was great. Thank you, Kathleen.
Yeah, for me, it's been brilliant. It's been just the sense of community, the ability to support each other, the ability to hold each other through the difficult. You know, sometimes it's been quite difficult. You know, we've each been at different stages coming into the work, and just that sense of, so what Kathleen, kind of like you mentioned about just the holding of the difficult conversation and the holding of the difficult energy without having to respond to it or retreat into an habitual way of being and behaving around it, but just start to create an opening for it and be okay with that. So it feels very dynamic. I feel kind of, and so then that's also given me a lot more ability to engage in the process of transforming white racism and finding a way where I can do that, you know, in the circumstances that I find myself with the resources that I've got. So yeah, it's been beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. Thank you.
I can just say, add to what you've already said, that I have to tell you and to warn you. You know, it's a thing that transformed not only the thought about the topic, but it is really a good journey for oneself. And I felt this collective holding and way of just having the time and the space and the connection to others to explore more and to get to know more how to look at my white racism, and also to learn how to deal with these different steps of the ladder, and how it is to go out and try it out and come back and find and know there are a lot of persons or people that go this transformational process with me. So it is really a great experience. But I have to warn you, it is not that nothing will change.
Okay, so thank you very much. And I'm going to share with you what I call some of the key processes in our transformational journey. So it's over 6 sessions, over 6 weeks. And there's a book which is called Me and My White Supremacy. It's a book which was written by a woman who is Black and who was living in England and who lives in the Middle East. And she started this as an Instagram challenge. And so it's 28 days of journaling, 28 days of observing yourself, 28 days of asking yourself questions about how do you walk in the world. So I ask you to do this journaling on your own, and to have an opportunity to share this journaling with other people who are on the program. There are 28 days of journaling, me and my white supremacy. At the same time, you have 28 days of forgiveness and acknowledgement. And I ask you to work on forgiving and acknowledging your parents, because if you learned racism, you learned it from your parents, and they gave it to you because that's all they had. If you have racist behaviors and thoughts and attitudes, it's because that's what you learned in school from your teachers, it's what you saw in movies, it's what you read in the history books, and it's what you learn from religion. So you have this racism because you're a fish in racist water, and that's just how it is. So I ask you to go through a process of every day acknowledging it and asking for forgiveness. And then I ask you also to go through a silent process of looking at people of different colors and origins and just acknowledging their contribution to society. Not talking to them, just acknowledging and focusing on it. So this part of the process, which is the inner work, then there's a part of the process which is about opening your eyes and your ears. So there's a lot about racist incidents, facts, and figures that a lot of the white dominant population don't really know. And it's to take the time to know them, to know what are the patterns, and to be able to feel them, to hold them in your mind and your will. And this is part of the process. We'll come back to that in just a minute. There's a lot around healing, releasing trauma, and that's all through it. And we're going to be doing some particular things in terms of healing and releasing the trauma that is there. And then in the fourth session, we start really looking at racial literacy. And racial literacy is, how do I have these discussions? How do I hold this space? What do I do when I'm present with microaggressions? What do I do when I hear people say things that are cognitive dissonance, which means if you think about it, you know it's not true, but repeat it because that's just what we've always repeated. And because we have not for 500 years lived in societies that have racial equity, dignity, and inclusion, we have to prototype and imagine what would that look like. So many times we say, oh, you have to start acting. And I'm saying, ooh, before we start acting, let's imagine it, let's envision it. And what would it be? And what would it feel like before we start jumping out and doing things? So it's a prototyping. And I won't ask you to prototype until after the fourth session. So, and you know, there's a work to be done before prototyping. And I'll talk a little bit about this, and then I'll ask the three who've gone through this. In each session, I ask 2 people to volunteer to be the guardians. Okay, and what are the guardians? The guardians feel you protect, they promote our collective well-being. There's a collective openness, there's an unapologetically being present to encourage a high standard. So as we are saying things, as we are talking, we are making sure that we're going to stay conscious, fluid, deep breathing in our well-being and our fluid, supple body. Continue to feel grounded, centered, and connected to others. So the guardians, and everybody is collectively responsible, we keep looking at each other, we keep feeling each other. So if we're telling a particular story and you see that someone looks like they're frozen, we stop. And we help that person come back to being centered and fluid. When we're hearing stories about facts around massacres and people being denied the right to live somewhere, instead of just in our head, is how does it feel in my body? How does it feel in my mind, body, spirit? And can I breathe with it and have it go through my body? Because so much of what white bodies have learned is I don't see racism. I don't see discrimination. I don't see that we've killed people. I don't see we don't let people have dignity. Because if I see it, it feels uncomfortable and it hurts. And I could feel ashamed. So it's much easier to block it out, not see it. I don't hear it. I don't feel it. And so as we go through that process of starting to see it and to hear it, we're going to feel it. And that's uncomfortable. And so how do we help each other come not to ignoring, but to being able to hold it? And this is where we're in a me-we. It's not me as an individual. It's not we, the group over there. We're a we. And we're going to, as a we, make sure that all of us in the we are grounded and centered and connected. Andrea, Gloria, Jenny, would you like to say something about the guardian practice?
Sure. I think that it's one of the most important parts, the guardians, because that's what makes the whole experience a body experience. We are all in this together, and we're always watching and looking for each other, and nothing goes by unnoticed. We are there. So for me, the guardians are a very important part of the whole process. And nothing it's like left untalked or not mentioned, because there are difficult moments, and we are all part of that. So the guardians were really helpful.
And for me, I'd like to add, when you are a Black body, an Indian body, when you are a non-dominant body, you have to learn to watch white bodies, because a white body that is not happy shares that unhappiness with you. It could put your life in danger. So we learn to look and to track when white bodies are not comfortable. But white bodies don't have to watch, don't have to know, don't have to pay attention to it. So you have not learned the skill of just watching and feeling what's happening in the whole racial domain. It's like the racial stuff doesn't exist. It's invisible. So as you become guardians, you learn to track, oh, white bodies are not comfortable. Oh, there are even times when the Black bodies are not comfortable. I hadn't noticed that. So it is also learning an important skill of racial literacy, is that I pay attention around the racial issue to where people are at. And it rotates. And when you're in small groups, because we do a lot of work in groups of 3 and in pairs, there's always one of you who's going to say, okay, I'm the guardian this time. I'm the guardian this time. And for every session, we have 2 people who are guardians overall. And when people are guardians, it doesn't mean that the other people don't also hold that collective space. So anything else about the guardian you'd like to share?
Yeah, I want to emphasize, it's really about this being aware of, it's not only about talking and intellectual thing, but it is about how does it feel in my body? How do I react, I myself, and how can I figure out others react? And these are, even through Zoom, these very, very fine and subtle changes of where are we now as a group and each of us, and I really appreciated this work.
Yeah, and for me, the guardianship was really, really important. And I think we started off by going, oh no, I don't want to be a guardian. And it does rotate, yeah, and we all get used to just being guardians and looking out for each other. Just basically means as Kathleen says, just like calibrating, but it's like a deeper level of self-awareness, and a self-awareness, it's an awareness of others, but it's an awareness of self too, because we're all connected, we're all in this together. So it is a really beautiful aspect of the work. And I'm really grateful, Kathleen, and I hope sometimes we were guardians for you as well, because like Kathleen putting herself through this experience for us, I think, was not always kind of like easy. So yeah, we create a mutually caring and beneficial space. And also that's the thing that in the end helps us kind of be able to hold a situation where there are difficult emotions and there are difficult positions that people are holding, and it's really great to feel that I can be a person who goes out into society and can create that space, create that safe space where communication can occur rather than the polarization. So thank you.
So if I come back to so the role of the guardian is one of the key elements. And oh, it's not changing. Because I also wanted to show one of the key processes. And okay. Yeah. So this key process is to start out about seeing and hearing. So seeing and hearing, we're going to talk about facts. I share stories from my life about my way of being and having been since I was in school, and I desegregated schools and what it's like to be a Black body in this dominant white world. And then we look at facts and figures from history. And how do you feel it? What does it feel like? And very often for feeling, when I tell a story and then I have people retell the story, miming it, making it physical in the body. So not just in the head, but how do you embody it? How do you mime it? And naming it. Yeah, by embodying it, by miming, that allows you to put a name, and then welcoming it. And if it goes down, it's because in the process of stopping and welcoming it, very often it's the beginning of, oh, okay, how can I welcome the feeling of anger, hurt, disgust, shame? You have to welcome it because it's there. It's part of who you are individually. It's part of who we are as a society. And the parts of society that you reject will always come back to bite you. We welcome they exist. And bring them alive and hold them. Now, this part about how do I hold a conversation with the parts of myself that feel uncomfortable when I'm the only white body in a Black place. And I can acknowledge that I feel uncomfortable and scared and don't know what to do, and I can hold it. And it can dissolve, and I can start to learn something else. So this is a key process. And this is a lot of what white people, white bodies have not learned to do. And it's actually one of the ways that society holds racism there, because as long as the white bodies don't see it and don't feel it, they will accept it. And so we keep the status quo. But if you start to be able not only to see it and feel it, but to like hold it and hold it over time, then we have an opportunity to change society. And we're going to change it by imagining and prototyping and creating and sustain it. This will not be done in 6 days, 6 weeks, or even 6 years. We're hoping to get somewhere in my lifetime. So how are we going to walk toward creating change and imagining change? And I know that right now in England and in France and in the United States, you have lists and lists of all the things you can do. But how can you imagine and prototype the changes that you can sustain over time? Not just 40 days, but it actually becomes a part of who you are. So that's the transformation part also, is imagine and prototyping. And in session 5, agreeing that this is how I'm going to do it, and coming back in section 6 and saying, okay, what am I able to sustain? Okay. Questions?
I want to make sure that people understand and have the link if they want to sign up for the 6 sessions, that this is really an open house, which is so exciting to me. Really thrilled to be here. And I'll put the link again of Kathleen's MailChimp, because there's a link on there where you can actually sign up for the 6 days. So I just didn't know if there were any questions about the actual session, but I'll put the MailChimp in case that's useful. And I guess I do have one question. What does it mean to prototype? That's really
Prototype means that you say, this is a new behavior that I would like to try, and I'm going to go out and do it. And I know it's not the final version. And I keep my eyes open and said, I'm experimenting. And I'll go out and do it, and then I'll come by and see, oh, did that work, and how did it feel, and was that ecological for me? And we accepted that we're creating something that hasn't existed.
Diana, did you want to say something?
Thank you. Kathleen, thank you so much. This is an amazing open house. And in the unlearning white racism work that I've done, how I've understood things is that we as white-bodied folks need to do our own work. And it's, it's kind of an extra burden on BIPOC members of communities to educate white folks like me. And I have this concern about, that in this group, I would be kind of, that really I need to be with other white-bodied folks to do this work. And I'm wondering, I can imagine that it's part of your passion and mission in life. I don't know you, but I'm just wondering how what your relationship is with what I'm bringing up.
You want an honest, direct answer?
I totally do.
Okay. It is a mission that I came to after George Floyd was assassinated.
Okay.
Because if we don't change white bodies fast, black bodies are going to be an extinct species.
Yeah.
This is survival.
Yeah.
And I have spent almost all of my life in predominantly white environments where I am the only black person. I worked in the corporate world. There was generally one black person. Most of the time there was one woman and one black person, and I was both of them.
Yep.
And I have been absolutely amazed in my life to have people who I loved and adored and who were so aware and so who say, "Oh, Kathleen, we don't even see you Black anymore." And I go, "What the fuck?
I know.
What the fuck?" I remember being in an NLP, neuro-linguistic programming with this huge person, and they were doing coaching identity. And people
Mm.
say, "Oh, Kathleen, we don't see you're Black." And I said, one more come up to me and say, "Don't see my Black," I'm gonna punch them.
Yeah.
"Oh, Kathleen, we didn't think you were an angry Black person."
Mm.
Oh my God. And these are the coaches. If this is what the well-intentioned white people are like, we are really in the shits. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, this is what the white-intentioned people are like.
Mhm.
So the other part of the answer is that I have a really strong support system.
Mhm.
I have a really strong support system on an individual basis. I have a really strong support system on a community basis, which means I belong to a community, a BIPOC community of people who do this kind of work, and we get together once a month and we work on ourselves and we supervise ourselves, and we get to say all kinds of stuff and let it off of our chest.
Mhm.
I know also when we work together, and when she talked about holding the space for me, that there are many moments where I express what's it like as a Black person, as a BIPOC person, to be living and going through these, and that you guys just said something that this shit don't fly.
Mhm.
Y'all think it's okay. This shit do not fly.
Mhm.
And how do we hold the space for me being able to say that without people taking it personally? And if you take it personally, how do you walk through it? How do you go through it? And how do how can I be me and realize that so many times I accept it because I'm used to, white bodies that are not happy make your life very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And so how do I also, as I go through the process, and she was talking about it, saying, "Hey guys, something just happened, and and how are we going to work through it?" And they can say to me, "We don't see why you're upset. We don't see why that doesn't make sense. We don't see why." And I get to say, "Well, I can't explain to you why, but yeah."
Yeah.
I think there was one session we had, which was really, really strong, because there was a Black person who was there and she was being harassed. And of all the things that they were suggesting, it was only consoling the victim. And I blew up and said, "What are you guys going to confront the perpetrator?" And they're like, "Oh, what a novel idea. Confront the perpetrator. Oh, we hadn't thought about that." I said, "Yeah, you only think about consoling the victim. You don't think, I mean, you could write a letter, you could stand up, you could talk to the person, you could call the police." And they're like, "I hadn't even thought about it. And that really feels uncomfortable." And I put so much pressure on people. I will always remember that people said, "You have an enormous amount of energy, Kathleen," because we felt it through. And we were like, "Okay, we should confront the perpetrator."
Mhm.
Wow. We didn't realize how scared we were to confront the perpetrator.
Mhm.
But we're very good at consoling the victim. So that's a very long, but it's a very precise answer. It is a process.
Yeah. Wow.
Can I just speak a bit to
Thank,
that?
let me just say thank you. I can feel the, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that power, that energy, I mean, it's been a real honor. I really am eternally grateful to you, Kathleen, for just putting yourself in that position with us, because as you say, it's a white person's problem to sort it out. And so the fact that you have actually created this space where, because really, I have no idea. It doesn't matter how many articles I read or whatever. I have no idea. And your power of your experience being in the same room with you or on the same screen with you was amazing. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and at one point that I told the group, you have to go out and figure out how are you going to confront the perpetrator and what stops you from doing and how you're going to do it and what are you going to do, and put yourself in small groups and support each other, but do something. And sometimes doing something is just writing a letter to the mayor, or writing a letter to the editor, or calling the police department. You don't have to put your life on the line. I stopped there. Darcy, you had wanted to say something.
Yeah, this is great. I'm taking this all in, and grateful to what you're offering, of yourself and your experience. I wondered, I'm coming from the Thomas Hubel course, and I know some people here aren't, but I know that those tools of being able to be present in myself, like those are the tools that I would need, for example, to sit in the guardian role. And I wondered whether there's any link to that.
Yeah, for example, I say that the basic one is working on breathing. Am I breathing? Is it deep breathing or is it shallow breathing? I do a lot with just looking at your body. Is your body fluid? Like if you're collapsed, something's wrong. And if you're like this, something's wrong. So is my body fluid? And we very often stop and make our body just, is everybody's body fluid? Is everybody breathing? We do a lot of mime, telling a story or listening to a fact and then mime it. What does it look like? And doing the mime. Someone says how they feel. Can you mime it back to them? Can you, where are you at on the continuum? And you mime where you're at in the continuum. And someone can say, this is how it feels to me. So we do a lot of that body work and miming. Because if it's up here, it's got to be in the muscle. It's got to be in the body. And as it comes to the mind and the body, then there's something that happens in the connection that makes it in the spirit. Because I feel it. But instead of saying, like this, do I feel it? If you do something and I mime it back to you, then we have a lot more connection, because I can see your body, I can feel your body. You know, even on this, you say, yeah, okay. Okay. And then, what's your gesture? What's your gesture? Oh, you look frozen. Okay. When people are frozen, how do you come out of being frozen? You know, you have this self-hugging, self-touching. Okay. Yeah. You have humming. And sometimes I do sounds with people. Oh, yeah, 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 oh, yeah, 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 no, oh, yeah, oh. And the sounds create something between us and inside of us. And I taught everybody how to say ashe, ashe, which is a Yoruba word for, and that this will come to be. But it's the sound, it's the music, and sound is a vibration that heals, and all of the traditional cultures have always sound. So how do we bring this sound in to heal ourselves? And if I'm upset, humming and rocking. And even on Zoom, when you hear me humming, and you see the rocking, what is it? What do you feel inside of you?
I can feel in my body the answer to my question. Like I'm experiencing the answer to my question, and it's actually great to not even be, I don't have words, but I feel what you're bringing in that, which is really, really compelling to me. So. I actually have another related or not related question, which is, it looked like you're only doing small groups at a time. Did I see that? Only 6 people, or did I misunderstand that?
No, I said I would start a group for 6 people and maximum 24.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So everyone is welcome to join. I'm supporting Kathleen in this effort. I witnessed Kathleen speak truth to power in front of 1,000 people at the Collective Healing Trauma, and one person, Kathleen, came forward and just transformed, literally shifted forever 1,000 people. And so I'm so grateful to get to support you, Kathleen. And so I put the sign up for the 6-session course. Spread the word. As you can see, it's not just an intellectual process, and I'm a somatic person as well. That's the work I do, mindfulness, somatic transformation. So this more embodied approach might be really what you want, or something someone in your community wants. So up to 24 people, not full, but jump on today, sign on. Then the first session is next Saturday at 8:30 my time, PDT, whatever the heck we're on, Pacific time, 5:30 Kathleen's time. Be sure to share your email. If you don't go onto this form, please don't assume we have your email. I'll save the chat, Kathleen, and make sure you get it. But please put your email in the chat. We will follow up with a thank you or an acknowledgement. Kathleen, are there any more comments, or I see we're at the top of the hour, any more questions, anyone around the course itself?
Can I just just mention the network? The network is really important, and the curated materials. That's also really, really important. And the community, you know, bringing people with you. You know, if you've got, like, you might have 3 people that you love, that, you know, you just want to just journey with, and it's a beautiful opportunity to do that.
Any other questions?
I thought you started 6 o'clock, my time 6 o'clock, but you have started already, eh? Hello, everybody.
Oh, that's because, well, I don't know. No, but we started. Oh, it didn't change for me.
Sorry, Saskia.
Oh, yes, it did, because I changed on French time because Americans have gone into daylight savings time, so it's an hour earlier in the United
Okay.
States.
So you have been talking already for an hour.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, pity.
But
What a
Why
pity.
don't
we've
stay on,
recorded.
Saskia? Stay on, Saskia. We'll check in with you.
And we have recorded it, so we can give you the recording of the experience.
Oh, that's good. That's nice.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording now. And if Kathleen, any final words before people leave? And Saskia, you can stay if you like.
Okay.